what's going on, guys? This is Matt, and today we are doing a collaboration with Elementary Brewing Co. He's a fellow YouTuber that produces awesome home brewing content, so make sure to check out his channel if you are already not subscribed. We're going to be trying to brew each other's favorite beer, and then we're going to ship those beers to each other, and we're going to sample them at the end of this video. I gave him the task of brewing my American Light Lager. I'll also post a link down in the description below to check it out if you'd like to see the recipe. And he gave me the task of brewing his Amber Lager. That video is also going to be in the description down below to check out his recipe in his grain of glass video. Before we get started, I want to take a second to thank my channel members, so thank you so much for becoming a channel member. Anyway, guys, that's enough talking for now. We're going to go ahead and jump into checking out the recipe, and then we're going to go right into the brew day. We're going to go ahead and first jump into the recipe. This is from Elementary Brewing Co. He's planning a 5% beer here, and it's a 5-gallon batch. For the mash, we're mashing in at 152 degrees, and this is a 45-minute mash. For the malt bill, we actually have quite a bit of different variety here. For the base malt, we're using Pilsner, so 8 pounds of that. And then we're using 1 pound of flaked corn, 1 pound of Mecca grade Munich-style barley malt, 6 ounces of Crystal, and 6 ounces of Victory malt. For the hops, we only have 2 varieties here. We're using Magnum and Tettnang. For the 30-minute edition, we're doing 0.75 ounces, and for the 10 and 2, we're using another ounce. This is only going to be a 30-minute boil for this one. For the yeast, we're using L26 Pilgrimage from Imperial Yeast. I believe this is a seasonal yeast, so I'm going to see if I can get my hands on it. If I cannot, we're just going to use an American or German style lager yeast. For the fermentation, we're just doing a typical lager at 52 degrees for 14 days. I typically do around a week and a half for lager, and then I do about a 3 to 4 day diacetyl rest. Again, if you'd like to see this in more detail, check out his video and his grain of glass video for his walkthrough. First, we added just over 6.5 gallons of distilled water. Next, we double crushed our grains to get a fine crush. While we're heating up to strike temp, we add in our brewing salts. Once we hit strike temp, we dough in. After 15 minutes into the mash, we take a pH reading and it measures out to target 5.3. After a 60-minute mash and a 10-minute mash out, we raise the grain basket up to drain the grains. While heating up to boiling, we add 1 gallon of room temperature water for sparging. After the sparge, we press on the grains to get as much wort out as we can. We're doing a 30-minute boil, and for our 30-minute edition, we're adding 0.75 ounces of Magnum, and at 10 minutes remaining, we add 0.5 ounces of Tettnang, yeast nutrient, and Warflock. Also at the 10-minute mark, we run boiling wort through the pumps line and chiller to sanitize the equipment. After our boil is completed, we turn cold water onto the plate chiller to start cooling the wort. And once the wort is cooled down to around 60 degrees, we rack the wort over to the fermenter. Lastly, we pitch our German lager yeast, WLP 830 from White Labs. We did a starter 1 day before brew day. Next, we have to aerate, so we add around 1 liter of oxygen to the fermenter via carbstone. To wrap things up, we connect our DIY glycol chiller to hold lager temperatures for 1.5 weeks. We set our temperature controller to 52 degrees, so that will control the pump to the glycol chiller. Our OG measured out to around 1058, which is a little higher than our target. After 2 weeks in the fermenter, we took our final gravity and it measured out to around 1011, which was on target. Our ABV measured out to around 6.1%. So here we are at the end of the video talking about tasting and also brew day notes on Elementary Brewing Co.'s International Amber Lager. I have that in my hand right here, and honestly, I've been killing this beer. I've really enjoyed it, so kudos to Elementary Brewing Co. for his recipe. I'm really enjoying this one. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, he brewed my American Light Lager, so he made a video, a grain to glass video on my recipe. I will post that in the description down below to check that out after this video. He's gonna be tasting my attempt at his amber lager in his video, and I'm gonna be tasting his American Light Lager at the end of this video. But first, let's talk about the amber lager and the brew day. For brew day notes, I don't have a whole lot to talk about. The main two things I wanna talk about is the recipe. So we did change one thing in his recipe, and that is the yeast selection. He used a seasonal yeast, I believe, in the recipe, so I could not get my hands on that. I did see if I could get it, but I could not get my hands on it. So I just used good old-fashioned German lager yeast, which I use in a lot of my recipes. So we switched that up. So we'll see if you can tell the difference or not in his video. I think the biggest change in my recipe compared to his is the ABV. I think I overshot gravity by quite a bit on this one. I think this is a full percent more, so we'll see if you can pick that up in his video. I don't think it's a big problem to be a full percent more, but I know for technically the International Amber Lager, probably 6% is probably a little too strong for this style, but overall it's still a really great beer. Typically, I would just add water to bring the gravity down, but I was already actually past my 5-gallon capacity for my kegs, so I figured I would just be kind of dumping in water just to bring down the ABV. And there was kind of no point to it since I was already at max capacity, so I kind of just left it alone. Next, we can talk about tasting notes on the International Amber Lager. First of all, with appearance, this actually turned out pretty clear. We did not use any cold side findings on this. This went from the fermenter into the keg, and it kind of cleared up over the last 4 weeks it's been sitting in the keg. For color, I would say it's kind of like a golden amber color, and for the head, it's an off-white head. Next, we can jump into aroma. So for aroma, this is definitely malt forward. This is a very, very sweet aroma. You almost pick up on some caramel notes as well. I'm also picking up on some toasty and grainy notes. And for hops, I don't get a whole lot of hop aroma either. This is really just a very sweet caramel aroma, and it's really, really pleasant. Next, we can jump into mouthfeel. So for mouthfeel, I would say this is probably around a medium light to medium body. And lastly, flavor. So for flavor, this definitely kind of resembles the aroma. You're getting a lot of sweet malt, pretty much moderate malt flavor, moderate caramel notes. You also pick up on some slight corny sweetness as well. For hops, again, kind of like the aroma, you don't really pick up on a ton of hop bitterness or hop flavor. This is really a malt forward beer. Overall, I had a ton of fun brewing your beer, Elementary Brewing Co., and I hope you enjoyed brewing my American Light Lager. We're now gonna jump into the American Light Lager tasting. Again, he sent me his American Light Lager, and I actually have an American Light Lager on tap. So we're gonna kind of pour them side by side and see how they're similar and see how they're different. So I got Elementary Brewing Co.'s Light Lager, so we're gonna go ahead and pour this out and see how this goes. Super clear, beautiful color. Wow, this is super clear. I'm not sure if you used findings for this or not, but this is incredibly clear. This looks like a great beer, and I actually have mine, so hopefully I won't get these confused. I don't think I will, because they definitely look a little different. His is a lot more clear than mine. So this is Elementary Brewing Co.'s Light Lager, and this is my Light Lager. As you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but his is definitely more clear than mine. But the color is pretty similar. We're gonna jump into aroma and kind of see what they smell like. Wow, so they definitely smell different. There's just not a ton of aroma with mine. You'd pick up like a hint of sulfur and maybe like some spicy, earthy hop notes. With his, it definitely smells a lot different. His beer is much sweeter smelling than mine. Yeah, I think for the big difference for aroma is just, it just smells a lot sweeter compared to mine. So next we can jump into flavor. Flavor, they're pretty dang similar. Again, his just has more flavor than mine. I'm not sure what his final gravity ended up at, but it just definitely has like more, just more sweeter flavor. It has a sweeter smell to it. Mine is just a little bit more subdued in all of these categories. But overall, I mean, this is a great beer, man. You killed it. This is probably my favorite style. And I make this is always on tap at my house. I have 3 taps, and this is always on my first tap. So I really enjoy this style, and you absolutely killed it. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you so much for watching and checking out my video. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also make sure to check out Elementary Brewing Co.'s video. I will post a link to that in the description below. Anyway, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.